It is a struggle to manage finances for maternity leave, and it's even more challenging if you work for yourself. There is not a position where you feel like you can take some time away from the business. Maybe you've never offered yourself paid time off or even had somebody in the business who can do what you do. And so what we're going to talk about today are some tips and some habits and some things to consider around managing your money and your financial health as you prepare for maternity leave. I'm really excited to jump in. First and foremost, I'm Allison Caffrey. I'm the founder of Master Maternity Leave and Operations Agency. We help business owners create more peaceful businesses behind the scenes and return fulfilled founders back to their families. I really love helping women who are running their business plan the maternity leave of their dreams. And if you are watching, it is probably likely that you've thought, I'm a business owner. I don't get maternity leave. I just need to make it work and do what I can do in order to keep the business going and grow my family simultaneously. And you may be wondering, well, how can I actually do all of this? Because the constraints around my time become really, really challenging. So I'm going to talk about one of the most probably stressful pieces of planning maternity leave, which is financial management and planning healthy money habits leading up to leave. So the very first consideration that I ask my moms to make is, what is your personal financial situation, right? If your business can withstand you going out and not being paid, and we can use that cash to fund other things inside of the business, which we can talk about here in a second, it really depends on your personal financial situation being ironclad. So if you have a husband, a partner, another contributor in your household who's bringing in additional income, that necessarily does not depend on your income. Or if the household does depend on your income and you're in a position where you and your partner or whoever is contributing to your home financially have created an amount of, space in your budgets and in your bandwidth to be able to actually withstand, not having another income from the business during that time, that is something to consider, right? So if we can create healthy financial homes, we likely can depend on our business way less when we go out of the company for a short or even an extended period of time. So first and foremost, what is your financial situation? Do you have a couple of months of your, expenses and things like that saved up inside of your personal bank account? And can you guys float, you for a little while to be able to take some time off from the company? The second is looking at the company's financial health. Now, if you are in a position where you're running a small business, it's oftentimes very rare that we have, months and months of saved capital in the bank. And oftentimes it's actually really unadvised. I'm not a financial advisor, but it's unadvised usually from most experts to keep more than 6 months working capital inside of the business. And so it's really challenging sometimes to consider, okay, well, if I need to save up for a maternity leave to be able to pay myself and to afford to take that time off, there are several things that probably need to happen. So first and foremost, we need to be cash reserved inside of the business. So it's like 2.5, 3.5 months, depending on the industry that you are in and the rate at which your business grows. So that's number one. Number two would be to have a couple more months, right, saved in there to make sure you are padding something. So the baseline is usually 2.5 to 3.5 months, but then we can consider that if we're planning a maternity leave and we need to save up some extra cash to be able to make some strategic hires to replace your time or to give you some paid time off, if that hasn't happened in the past, we might need to, consider adding more to that particular pool of money. Now, something that is really helpful, I find, is considering what is the gross profit of all the things that you are doing inside of the business and start to reinvest that back into kind of your nest egg for your business or that available working capital, and try to ideally contribute to that for, at least 2.5 months and really create 2.5 months of working capital inside of your business so that you can, actually feel confident about your leave and that you're not going to have something crazy happen and then all of a sudden you can't make payroll or you can't pay your contractors or your ads get turned off or your card gets dinged and you can't, make your payments on your ads and everything gets shut down. So it's really, really challenging, but sometimes we can take a look at what's happening inside of the business and just consider, all right, well, if we have this amount and we can keep going, maybe if we double it or if we try to 1.5x it, it's helpful to have at least a little bit more cash in the bank at several times inside of the business. So looking at our gross profit and looking at what we want to put away, that might mean for the interim time, cutting off some distributions to you yourself as the owner. I think this is one of the biggest things that I did when I was planning for my maternity leaves is I said, okay, well, if I don't take distributions from the business and I can keep my salary happening, then at least my family can survive or thrive through, the maternity leave period on my salary. And then I can use the distributions that I would have taken to reinvest into the growth of the business. So this was really helpful when I had to hire some more teammates or create some ads, or an ad budget inside of my business to be able to, create some throughput and connect me with new prospective clients. That was really, really helpful for me, especially as I returned to the business, because what happened in my first leave was that I went out and then I ended up not realizing that the networking and the connecting and all the things that I was doing in the business actually drove most of the client acquisition process inside of my business. So I was literally getting customers because of the time I was putting in connecting with people and doing all those things. And since I didn't have a relative, stand-in for that, I didn't have a YouTube channel yet, I didn't have a content stream, I didn't have any paid ads running, I came back into my business expecting that the rate of people booking calls to get on my calendar to become clients and work with us and all the things, it actually just kind of stopped. So I had a really challenging time right after maternity leave getting back up and running because I didn't invest what I was distributing to myself back into creating some of those things. So one of the biggest things that you can do is stop distributing. Again, not financial advisement, but for the most part, it'll be helpful, I think, to have some more cash in the business so that you feel like you can make some confident decisions. Additionally, make sure that you are getting your, personal stuff lined up and that you've got everything in your personal life feels like you can and should be able to depend on either your salary or your partners or whomever is going into that. I personally also find that when I was planning for my first maternity leave, I put a really big emphasis on the stuff. We spent a lot of money to get our house ready and to, get gear for our baby and all these different things. And I do believe that some baby gear is totally necessary. I'm a huge fan of baby wearing and a huge fan of my Solly wrap. But it ended up being true that a lot of things, it really didn't make being a parent easier, and it really didn't make things more enjoyable as a new parent when we were just surrounded by a bunch of stuff. When we planned our second maternity leave with our son, Jack, we ended up actually going through quite a few things and just taking everything off of the table, aside from the bare essentials and the necessities. And had we known that sooner, it would have put way less financial stress on our family had we not made a gigantic investment into, a bunch of brand new baby gear. We also got connected with friends and family members and other folks in our community who had really lightly used baby gear that we were able to either purchase or just get from them entirely free because of the fact that, your kid's only in the bouncy seat for a few months. And although they might poop on it or puke on it, it's still actually really good condition. So I challenge some of the moms watching and listening that for the most part, the things that you get your baby, they're not going to know, only you're going to know whether it's new or if it's lightly used. So I know that we have lots of preferences, especially when it comes to the safety, the security, the comfort of our home and our child. So you can make that decision as you will, but ultimately I think we probably could have saved about half or probably even more had we just had some critical discussion about what was really necessary for baby and what wasn't. And truth be told, you can always place a last minute 2 a.m. Amazon order if you feel like you need to jump in and grab another piece of equipment or something that you've missed. So we've talked about here your personal finances and what your financial situation looks like at home. We've talked about the cash reserve in your business. We've talked about not distributing to yourself. And the fourth and final thing I'm going to talk about is your gross profit. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but what I really want to do is make sure that you have a good handle on what your gross profit is inside of your business, which means every time you are working with a customer or a client, what exactly is going back into the business to make sure that it runs efficiently. Because ultimately what you're going to do is you're going to pay yourself with that money. You're going to grow the business with that money. You're going to be able to basically hire more people with that money, and it'll help you understand what the available pool is of finances that you're able to leverage to support you from a time perspective, right? Because if you can't experience a hiccup or an interrupt inside of your actual salary or anything like that, you want to make sure that you are in a position to be able to hire somebody for your time at a rate that will also not totally burst your gross profit. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to come back to a business that you have a bunch of people in and ultimately you have to then just let everybody go once you get back because you can't afford all of the overhead, or be halfway through maternity leave and be in a position where you have to let somebody go and then come back into the business before before you are ready. So I think it's really, really challenging to consider all of the different things that could be true here for you, but it's one really, really important piece of things. So for the most part, if you are a service-based business, we usually like to recommend around 60% gross profit on your services. Now, a 60 to 40% ratio is actually also still pretty good. So the question then becomes, are you willing to sacrifice like a little bit of that gross profit for a short period of time to be able to press stop, and actually be home with your baby and be able to give some folks that opportunity to come and work with you. Now, I'll talk about this more specifically in other videos, but there are some things that you can do to make sure that you can build on that team development and on that leadership development, because ultimately what you want to do is you want to come back to a business that's been able to thrive without you and then build from there, right? Instead of undoing all the things that you did to prepare for maternity leave and then feel like you're kind of stuck in the mud and now also have a newborn and other demands on your personal life. Because something that I say to my moms all the time is these lasting habits that we are building to prepare for maternity leave can absolutely transition us through into postpartum life and even early toddler life when we have 1,000 doctor's appointments and kids are always home from daycare, or we are homeschooling, or any of the things that present themselves to us as we become a parent or as we're growing a family and as we're growing a business. So healthy money habits are absolutely critical for saving for leave, for making sure that you feel totally secure. This was actually one of the most anxiety provoking, but also the most calming once I had things in place that really felt comfortable to me. I could literally tell the difference when I felt financially unstable when I felt financially stable when I was planning my maternity leave. And even in the early stages postpartum, just knowing that things were okay and that our family wasn't gonna have to strap down and not be able to go out to dinner or whatever it is that, comes with the ease of, being a little bit more financially comfortable, especially with a baby. Sometimes it's just so stressful that you want to make the quickest decision and you want to be able to solve your problems really fast. And that is often due to being really financially secure. So a couple of things, a couple of quick tips and habits. If you are enjoying this content, I encourage you to subscribe, wherever you are watching the video. And you can always follow us at Master Maternity Leave on Instagram is where we hang out most. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video.